Back in 2010, this one single event on a pretty remote island didn't just cause a bit of local trouble. Nope, it sent a massive shockwave through our entire global system. Today, we're going to unpack the incredible story of the Eyjafjallajökull eruption. All right, let's get into it.
So it really does sound like the start of some impossible riddle, right? How on earth could just one kind of moderately sized volcano in the middle of the North Atlantic do that? How could it completely paralyze modern air travel and, in the process, expose this critical weakness in the very fabric of our connected world? Well, to figure that out, we have to go right to the source.
Okay, so our story kicks off right here. We're in Iceland, it's April 2010. And after being dormant for almost 200 years, this volcano with the famously hard-to-say name, Eyjafjallajökull, started to wake up.
Now you gotta understand, eruptions in Iceland aren't exactly a rare thing. The whole island is literally being pulled apart as the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates drift away from each other. That makes it one of the most volcanically active spots on the entire planet. So the big question is, what made this eruption so different?
Well, the answer lies in this really unique and frankly powerful combination of elements. This wasn't just your standard eruption, it was a perfect storm born from the violent meeting of two totally opposite forces, ice and fire.
And this breaks it down perfectly. See, as the super-hot magma rose up, it slammed into the thick glacier that was sitting right on top of the volcano. And the result? Boom! A massive steam explosion. The heat just flash vaporized the ice. And this blast was so incredibly violent that it didn't just spew lava, it literally shattered the magma into these microscopic, razor-sharp particles of rock and glass. And that created the uniquely dangerous ash.
And this wasn't just any old ash cloud. The sheer force of that explosion shot this fine, abrasive dust 9 kilometers straight up into the air, right into the jet stream. Think of it as the superhighway for commercial airplanes.
The result was immediate, and it was totally unprecedented. For the first time since World War II, the skies over an entire continent just went silent. But you're probably thinking, come on, it's just dust, right? Why is it so dangerous that you have to ground thousands of super advanced modern airplanes? Well, here's why. This stuff isn't like soft soot from a fireplace. It's pulverized rock and glass. A jet engine runs hot enough to melt those tiny particles. And when they melt, they fuse into this glassy coating all over the turbine blades, basically starving the engine of air and causing it to shut down mid-flight.
So yeah, when faced with that kind of risk, the aviation authorities really had no other choice. Over just 6 days, more than 100,000 flights were canceled. The scale of it is just mind-boggling.
And the economic hit was just as huge. The airline industry alone lost something like $1.7 billion. But believe it or not, that was really just the beginning of the financial shockwave.
Because this quickly became way more than just a travel problem. Grounding all those planes triggered this cascading ripple effect that was felt in pretty much every corner of the global economy.
And this is where you see the huge contrast. Locally, in Iceland, the direct impact was actually pretty contained. Yeah, there was some flooding and ash on farms, but thanks to really great management, very few people were actually harmed. The global impact, on the other hand, was total chaos on a planetary scale. And the effects went so far beyond the millions of stranded passengers. Our global supply chains, which rely so heavily on air freight, they just broke. Perishable things like flowers coming from Kenya or fresh fish for restaurants in Europe, they all just rotted in warehouses. And businesses that rely on just-in-time delivery for car parts or electronics, their assembly lines just ground to a halt.
So, what's the big lesson here? What did we learn? This eruption wasn't just a geological event. It was this incredibly powerful real-world lesson in just how interconnected our planet has become.
This quote really just nails it. The eruption itself, geologically speaking, was actually pretty moderate. Its real power came from the fact that it collided directly with the incredibly complex global systems that we've all built.
This whole event is really a textbook example of what we call global interdependence. It's proof that in our modern world, something that happens in one remote corner of the globe can have immediate and massive consequences for absolutely everyone everywhere. Ultimately, Eyjafjallajökull was a massive wake-up call. It pulled back the curtain and exposed this hidden fragility underneath our super-efficient world. It showed us how our greatest strengths, speed, connection, efficiency, can also be our biggest vulnerabilities.
The 2010 eruption was, in hindsight, a massive, unexpected stress test of our global networks.
It forced us to look our dependencies right in the eye. And it leaves us with this really critical question to think about. We know there will be a next time. The only question is, what will that event reveal about us?